All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Harris County Flood Control District's virtual community engagement meeting to discuss the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin. This virtual community meeting is being offered by the Flood Control District to share vital information with the community and to gather your input on flood risk reduction efforts in your area. Community engagement is a critical component of our work, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us this evening. My name is Robert Fricke with the Flood Control District Communications team. I'm joined tonight by a team of Flood Control District leadership and subject matter experts to ensure we continue to keep you up to date on important flood mitigation efforts. We are glad to see the community engage with this project and look forward to gathering your feedback tonight. Moving forward, we will continue to share updates on this and other projects in your area to keep you involved and informed. First, we would like to begin tonight's meeting with remarks from Harris County Precinct 3 Commissioner Tom Ramsey.
Howdy, and thank you for your time tonight. Flooding is one of the problems Harris County has been plagued with far too long. With each storm and rain event, we're faced with the reality that our infrastructure needs, including maintenance, are challenged. And as an engineer, I believe innovation and partnerships are key to solutions we need to ensure flood resiliency. It is so important that we continue to work together with Flood Control District to bring projects to your area for the safety of you and your loved ones. We at Precinct 3 are also doing our part in conducting regular maintenance throughout your area to include desilting ditches, storm debris removal, road reconstruction, right-of-way mowing, and much, much more. I encourage you to visit our website and please submit your service request you may have in your area. There you'll also find Precinct 3 news and activities happening within our parks and community centers. As always, thank you for attending today's meeting, and we look forward to hearing from you about this project. We are here to serve you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. We appreciate you sharing remarks. This virtual public meeting will begin with a presentation to share project updates, including an overview of the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin, timelines, and next steps. The presentation will be followed by a virtual question and answer session with the Flood Control District team members, where we'll respond to your questions and comment on some of the frequently asked questions we've received from the public. Attendees will be able to submit comments and questions through the website or by phone. Any comments not addressed during the Q&A session will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the close of the comment period. Instructions on how to participate in the virtual meeting are included on this slide, on this virtual meeting webpage, and on the Flood Control District's website. I will also share a reminder of these instructions when we reach the Q&A portion of the meeting. We will now transition to Brandy Zenon, Manager of the Capital Projects Department North with the Flood Control District, who will share information about the Flood Control District and this project. Brandy, over to you.
Thank you, Robert, and a special thanks to each of you for joining us. In this presentation, we will give a brief overview of this project. Before we get to the project specifics, we want to share a bit of background about the Flood Control District. The Harris County Flood Control District is a special purpose district created by the Texas legislature in 1937 in response to the devastating floods that hit the Houston area in 1929 and 1935. The Flood Control District is governed by the Harris County Commissioner's Court and works closely with other entities in our region, such as the Harris County Engineering Department and the City of Houston. The organization was created in part to serve as a local partner to leverage federal funding for flood damage reduction projects. Our mission has expanded since our founding, leading to billions of dollars in federal, state, and local funding infrastructure improvements in the ground. The mission of the Harris County Flood Control District is to provide flood damage reduction projects that work, with appropriate regard for community and natural values. One of the most difficult challenges we face is constructing effective projects that are sensitive to community and natural values in a highly urbanized area. Harris County includes 23 main watersheds totaling approximately 1,800 square miles and more than 2,500 linear miles of channel. 2,500 miles is approximately the distance from New York to California. A watershed is a geographical region of land that drains to a common channel or outlet. Each watershed has its own unique characteristics and needs. The project we will be presenting tonight is the Willow Creek Watershed located in Northwest Harris County. Harris County and other surrounding area is flood prone for a number of reasons. Namely, we experience extreme rainfall events, including tropical storms and hurricanes. Our area is largely made up of flat, slow draining land. And lastly, we are large concentrations of soil that do not soak up excess rainfall quickly. While the Flood Control District plays a critical role in flood risk reduction, we are one of several entities involved in these efforts in our region. When the rain falls on your roof, it flows through several jurisdictions, such as streets and drains managed by the Harris County Engineering Department, a municipal utility district, or a city, such as the City of Houston, before it flows into a larger channel, creek, or bayou that the Flood Control District owns and maintains. This slide illustrates the various jurisdictions, which sometimes we even share with other entities. Inside neighborhoods, as shown on the left side of the illustration, storm sewers and roadside ditches collect stormwater runoff and start the process of moving it away from homes and streets. Storm sewers and roadside ditches are the responsibility of the underlying municipality. The larger bayous and channels that take the collected stormwater and move it through our drainage systems to Galveston Bay are the responsibility of the Flood Control District. This is shown on the right side of the illustration. In the middle is a stormwater detention basin, sometimes constructed by the Flood Control District. When storm sewers on the left are increased, this creates an increase in runoff. Since it is our policy to avoid any adverse impacts from our projects, detention basins help to safely take in and temporarily store excess stormwater during heavy rain events. Often we partner with Harris County permits, utility districts, and others to add recreational amenities such as trails to these basins and along our channels. On August 25th, 2018, Harris County voters approved $2.5 billion in bonds for flood risk reduction projects. This vote followed a series of 23 meetings with community members across Harris County, one per watershed, which resulted in a list of what is now 181 bond projects. A total for more than $1.35 billion in partnership funding has been secured so far to stretch the 2018 bond program even further. The actual timing of each individual project will depend on a variety of factors, including environmental permitting, right-of-way acquisition, and utility relocation in some cases, requirements of a particular grant. Project lists and project schedules are updated regularly on our website. As the bond projects move forward, we're making significant progress toward resilience in Harris County. We shared an update with the Harris County Commissioners Court in January of this year and highlighted a few notable stats. We've completed or closed 27 projects, secured $1.43 billion in partnership funding to stretch the bond funds even further for our community, and hosted more than 180 community engagement meetings. Your input is critical to our efforts, and we want to ensure our conversation continues. We'll continue these biannual updates moving forward to share progress on the program. While the bond for $2.5 billion, the full cost of every project in the bond tables are almost $5 billion. So we made it clear from the outset that we need your funding partners to fully construct the project in the bond program. As I mentioned, we've had some success so far, having secured more than $1.35 billion in partner funds for projects across Harris County. And this graphic illustrates the many sources of these partnerships, including federal, state, and local funding that the Flood Control District is working to secure for Harris County. Each agency has its own definition of eligible projects, and its own requirements for local match funding. So the Flood Control District works diligently to match projects to the right partnership opportunities. We will now move into the part of the program that is specifically about the Willow Creek watershed and the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin project. As a reminder, we're looking for your input as we discuss the project in more detail. Please feel free to drop any questions or comments in the comment box. Your comment via phone by pushing the star key. Before we talk about project specifics, we would like to provide some information about the Willow Creek watershed and how the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin project originated. The Willow Creek watershed is located in Northwest Harris County and drains about half of the city of Tomball. Willow Creek is the primary stream within the watershed and flows into Spring Creek just upstream of where Spring Creek crosses under I-45. The watershed covers 54 square miles, which includes about 56 miles of open streams in the watershed, including the primary stream and tributary channels. The eastern half of the watershed is primarily forested, but includes significant development in the area. The western half is primarily rural and open pasture land, but is quickly developing as well. Now let's briefly recap the Willow Creek Watershed Planning Project and its relation to the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin project we are discussing tonight. The study was completed in 2021, and the purpose was to create a watershed-wide plan for major stormwater infrastructure improvements in the Willow Creek watershed. This plan identified and evaluated multiple major problems areas within the watershed and proposed solutions. The plan also provides a strategy for the implementation of the projects and for the future development of the watershed. The plan recommends 1,320 acres of right-of-way to be used, which will consist of 240 acres of floodplain preservation, 870 acres for detention storage, and 210 acres for maintenance access and buffers. To meet the need of 870 acres of detention storage, the plan recommends a total of 9 regional stormwater detention basins. And with the available bond funds, the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin was recommended to move through engineering and construction first. If you would like more information regarding the Willow Creek Watershed Planning Study, please visit www.hcd.org/F-71. Let's now turn our attention to the project we are discussing tonight. The project area is located along the main stem of Willow Creek, just north of Highway 99, also known as the Grand Parkway, and Boudreaux Road. The area is located within unincorporated Northwest Harris County and Precinct 3. The goals of this project are to reduce peak flows and water surface elevations along Willow Creek, maximize the storage volume within the project area, and provide improvements in evaluated flood matrix, such as reduction in flooded parcels, structures, and roadways. The preliminary engineering report, or PER, for this project conducted an alternative analysis and recommended a preferred alternative that will meet these project goals. As part of the preliminary engineering, the Flood Control District identified the need of right-of-way for this project and is taking the steps to begin the formal acquisition process. This project will be constructed in phases to not delay construction due to the availability of right-of-way and funds. Due to the current acquisition process, we will not be able to show specific basin layouts, but we will still show acreage footage, benefits, and costs of each of the alternatives that were evaluated as part of the preliminary engineering. The two primary sources of flooding in the Willow Creek watershed are rising waters from Willow Creek or the tributary channels and rising or flowing water overland with rural and urban subdivision flowing towards an outfall. The watershed is also experiencing pockets of transformation from rural to urban with rapid development, and the impacts of flooding have increased the depth and duration of flooding. You can see in this slide the existing floodplain in and around the proposed project area. The light blue shows the 100-year floodplain and the light green shows the 500-year floodplain. If you're not familiar with this terminology, the 100-year floodplain has a 1% annual chance of flooding during a storm event. And the 500-year floodplain has a 0.2% annual chance of flooding during a storm event. In addition to the existing conditions, the area has also experienced several historic flooding events like Hurricane Harvey in 2017, the Tax Day flood in 2016, Hurricane Ike in 2008, Tropical Storm Allison in 2001, and the October 1994 flood. The historic house flooding has occurred mostly within the FEMA effective 1% floodplains along Willow Creek. Lastly, the concurrent flooding occurs primarily in the lower reaches of the Willow Creek near Sugarberry Place and in the Embers Estates subdivisions. As mentioned earlier, the Willow Creek Watershed Planning Study called for multiple stormwater detention basins, including the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin project. As many of you know, a stormwater detention basin is built to temporarily store excess stormwater until it can make its way safely back into the channel and then ultimately into Galveston Bay. There are several ways that stormwater will fill the detention basin, but all of our structures are passive designs that utilize gravity to operate. So no mechanical gates or pumps that can malfunction or fail. The flood control district typically constructs two types of stormwater detention basins. For example, in this image, you can see the red arrow to the right of the image points to an example of a wet bottom basin. A wet bottom basin typically has a permanent pool of water and can provide habitat for a variety of wildlife, as well as stormwater quality improvement features. Sometimes we are asked, how can a basin full of water hold more water? The answer is that the basin is not full. The space for storing stormwater is above the natural water table up to the top of the basin banks. Now looking at the blue arrow to the left of the image points to an example of a dry bottom basin. A dry bottom basin will fill up during a heavy rain event and then completely drain out once the storm has passed. Because it is dry most of the time, it provides the opportunity for adding trees or recreational amenities to be built in and around the basin by others. Both wet and dry bottom basins fill up during heavy rain events and then drain as the receiving channels recedes. The difference is that one has a permanent pool and one has a dry and grassy bottom. Details of the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin would depend on a variety of factors, including the exact property to be included, the presence of protected wetlands, and others. We will now focus on specific alternatives that were evaluated during the preliminary engineering stage. As a reminder, due to us still needing to acquire the necessary right-of-way for the project, we are not able to share specific layouts of the proposed basin alternatives. This table shows the three alternatives and how many acre-feet they can hold. For reference, an acre-foot of water is equivalent to 325,851 gallons of water. Alternative 1 would hold an estimated 1,298 acre-feet of stormwater. Alternative 2 would hold an estimated 1,748 acre-feet of stormwater. Finally, alternative 3 will hold an estimated 1,701 acre-feet of water. Now let's review the breakdown of benefits along the estimated costs of each of the three alternatives of the stormwater detention basins. Based on our analysis of potential flood risk reduction benefits, estimated costs, necessary right-of-way acquisitions, and other project considerations, alternative 2 is the recommended alternative. As a reminder, alternative 2 recommends 1,748 acre-feet of stormwater detention. This alternative is estimated to remove the 100-year area of inundation from 109 structures, 162 acres, and 1.6 miles of roadway. The estimated cost for the construction of this alternative is $78.9 million. This number may change as construction-ready plans are developed, as the cost of land, materials, and construction crews can change. Once the preliminary engineering report is transmitted through Harris County Commissioner's Court, this alternative will move into the design stage of the project life cycle. Throughout this project, we have coordinated with Harris County Engineering and Harris County Precinct 3 on road projects in the area, including the Holder Reef Road Extension and the Boudreaux Road Alignment projects. For more information on road projects in the area, please consult the Harris County Engineering website at www.eng.hctx.net. Now let's take a look at the project's life cycle outlook for this project and our next steps. The life cycle of an individual project typically starts with a feasibility study, in which a drainage problem is identified along with the type of flood risk reduction project to address that problem. In this case, it was the Willow Creek Planning Study. The project is developed in more detail during the preliminary engineering stage. During this stage, an environmental clearance must be obtained. We then acquire any needed right-of-way and work through utility relocations if needed. The final three stages are design, construction, and operation and maintenance. Throughout each project's life cycle, we continue to solicit community input and secure funding opportunities to make these projects a reality. As noted on this slide, we are currently in the preliminary engineering stage of this project life cycle and hope to be in the design stage in the next few months. Preliminary engineering is an important stage in the development of a project in which we conduct a detailed evaluation of different basin alternatives. The preliminary engineering stage is where the flood control district balances the two parts of its mission, providing flood damage reduction projects that work with appropriate regard for community and natural values. Before we discuss the current funding for this project, we will discuss the potential funds from the United States Housing and Urban Development's Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program, or CDBG-DR, that has the potential to award $319 million in funding to projects across the county. The Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin project could potentially receive $30.7 million for the construction cost of phase 1 of this project in the CDBG-DR funding. It's important to note that this funding has several stipulations tied to it. 50% of the total funding from the CDBG-DR list must be spent in low to moderate income, or LMI, census tracts, or census blocks groups with a 51% or higher LMI index. The remaining funds could be used on urgent need projects, which is what this project is considered to be. All CDBG-DR funds must be expended by June 15, 2026, meaning that the project must be closed out before this date. We are working to determine more exact dates as we refine our project schedule and close in on a date for construction to begin. There will be additional community engagement later this year to discuss all of the CDBG projects. This project also receives funds from the bond ID F106 in the amount of $15 million. This will fund right-of-way acquisition, design, and construction. Additionally, bond ID F36 provides $30 million across the watershed for the purpose of right-of-way acquisition and floodplain preservation. Depending on the final cost determined during the design stage, we will look to work with state and federal partners as appropriate to secure the remaining needed funds. Once community input has been received from tonight's meeting, the final preliminary engineering report will be transmitted to the Harris County Commissioner's Court. Once transmitted, we can move into the design stage on phase 1 of this project. This will include the development of detailed construction drawings and specifications that will be used to construct the recommended project. An additional public meeting will take place to present the final design of phase 1 of the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin project during the design stage. At that time, the Flood Control District will have a stronger handle on the recommended alternatives final design, including details on the project's construction impacts. During the design stage, we will acquire the needed right-of-way for construction. Once final design is complete, we will begin a phased construction approach based on right-of-way and funding acquired. I will now turn the program back over to Robert to kick off the Q&A.
Thanks, Brandy. Before we move into the Q&A, I want to share a quick reminder that we're looking for your input. We'd love to hear from you on this and other projects moving forward across Harris County. Your input is critical as we continue to develop project plans for this and other flood risk reduction efforts. All comments and questions received this evening will be considered as we develop plans for this effort. But the conversation doesn't end here. Please learn more about this project, ask questions, and sign up for our mailing list. Please visit hcfcd.org/Boudreaux. As a reminder, there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. Submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. Submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/Boudreaux, or submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801, utilizing meeting code 2763. If you are joining us via phone tonight, please press star to leave a message. Additionally, I want to reiterate that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District following the close of the comment period. Information from this meeting and a recording of the live stream will be available on the Flood Control District's website and YouTube channel. Joining Brandy for our Q&A session tonight is Project Manager Kyle Hardy. Now it's time to take some of your questions. All right. The first question is for Brandy. Randy asked, the map appears to indicate that all the forested areas will be removed. What happens to the wildlife that depend on the wooded areas for shelter, food, and water from Willow Creek?
That's a good question. All 3 alternatives that were evaluated during the preliminary engineering report takes into account 70 acres of floodplain preservation area, meaning area where there's not disturbed by any development. And so that has forest and habitat. So including this land that we have set aside for flood preservation on both sides of the creek, we also are saving a certain amount of acreage that would not be touched as well, where wildlife can naturally habitate towards.
All right, thank you, Brandy. Our next question is for Kyle. Kyle, what is the estimated capacity of the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin?
The Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin is estimated to hold up to 1,748 acre-feet of stormwater.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Our next question is for Brandy. Brandy, what is the current funding status for this project?
This project is receiving funding from 2 separate 2018 bond funds. First, there's bond ID F106 that provides approximately $15 million for right-of-way acquisition, final design, and partial for construction and any drainage improvements within the Willow Creek watershed. Bond ID F36 provide approximately $30 million for the Willow Creek right-of-way acquisition and floodplain preservation. In addition to that, there is possible funding that we may be receiving from the HUD Community Block Development Grant Program for disaster recovery, also known as CDBG-DR, that has identified the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin to approximately receive $30.7 million from this grant program.
All right, thank you, Brandy. Our next question is for Kyle. Kyle, where can I find information on the Willow Creek Watershed Planning Study?
Okay, you can find information at our website, www.hcfcd.org/F-71.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Kyle, this next question is also for you. Will this project eliminate flooding altogether?
Although this project will reduce the risk of flooding in the area, the risk of flooding will remain. The Flood Control District recommends that everyone in Harris County and surrounding areas have flood insurance to ensure against the possibility of personal and financial losses. Please visit our website. It's going to be www.hcscd.org/MAAPNEXT to learn about the Flood Control District's Map Next initiative, which aims to produce Harris County's most comprehensive and complete set of flood hazard maps and information.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Kyle, once again, this next question is for you. Mark asked, will Champions Forest Boulevard still go from Highway 99 to the Albury Trails subdivision?
At this time, we will have to follow back with that one. I think that would be a question that would be better answered by our engineering group, Harris County Engineering Department, as they oversee the roadway construction projects. But we will be able to get back with you on that answer, or provide someone to get back with you.
Thank you, Kyle. And I do see some more people coming in. For those of you just joining us, there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/Boudreaux. Or you can, of course, submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801 using meeting code 2763. And also, if you're joining us via phone tonight, please press star to leave a message. All right, moving on. Our next question is for Brandy. Brandy, Shay asked, do we have a date for when we will be at the right-of-way acquisition / utility relocation stage?
Not at this time. As mentioned earlier, we are currently in the right-of-way acquisition process, but this project in phase 1 is potentially tied to a federal grant that requires certain stipulations and requirements that need to be met before we can actively pursue a property for acquisition. And so as we're working out the logistics and the timing to get that information, we can provide at a later date when that acquisition process will start, and the properties that will be impacted by the right-of-way acquisition will be contacted at a later date.
All right, thanks, Brandy. This next question is also for you. Mike wants us to know that he would like for this project to include park usage for hiking and walking.
Yes, of course, our detention basins, we do like to partner with outside entities to incorporate these type of recreational amenities. However, the Flood Control District does not construct the trails, hiking trails, but we create what we call like a footprint for the availability for others to install that. So we encourage the community to reach out to your precinct or local area entities that could properly partner with the Flood Control District to install these recreational amenities. So reach out to, I would say, start off with the precinct and other entities and express your interest of wanting this site to have those amenities. And if they decide to move forward with that, then the Flood Control always looks to partner with outside entities for this purpose.
All right, thanks, Brandy. Our next question is for Kyle. Kyle, Mark asks, will any other areas upstream of this project on Willow Creek be redredged for this project?
For this project, no. We're only looking at the surface area that we show, to my knowledge. I can follow up with some folks here at Flood Control to get a better understanding of our redredging program. But this time, I don't believe so.
All right, thanks, Kyle. This next question is also for you. Jim asks, when a design is available for public review and which shows basin configuration, will design changes be able to be made based on public input?
For this question about when the design becomes available and we have our basin configuration, will will public input be used? We will have future public involvement meetings, which will allow constituents and members of the public to make comments to our design.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Our next question is for Brandy. Brandy, what other opportunities will there be for public input on this project?
The Flood Control District always welcomes input on our projects. Please visit the project page, which is located at www.hcfcd.org/Boudreaux, the word Boudreaux, and then click submit a comment to ask your question or to provide project input. Additionally, we will hold another community engagement meeting during the design phase of this project life cycle that will allow for us to again address comments that we have at that meeting, but also for us to evaluate any input that the community may have on this project.
All right, thanks, Brandy. Our next question is also for you, Brandy. Randy asks, will changing the floodplain affect flood insurance?
That question for this particular project, this is one project of the total, I guess, watershed master plan. So you will need to contact your insurance company about if your flooding insurance will be impacted or changed as a result to what's happening in this watershed. But for this particular project, this is more so like I said, one project that will be accompanied by multiple projects. So what we call letter map of a revision or something like that could impact the change in the floodplain will be further down in the future when that could be revised.
All right, thanks, Brandy. And I do see that we're receiving a couple of comments specific to roads in the area. I just want to let everybody know that we will be getting back to you after the meeting regarding those comments, as they are not tied to the Flood Control District Stormwater Detention Basin, but instead are things being handled by Harris County Engineering. But please know we will follow up with you after tonight's meeting. And as we do get more people coming in this evening, those of you who are just now joining us, you can submit, there are 3 ways to submit a question or comment about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/Boudreaux, or you can submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801, utilizing meeting code 2763. And if you're joining us via phone, please press star to leave a message. Okay, moving on. Our next question is for Kyle. Kyle, who is responsible for cleaning dirt off of the roads during construction/excavation?
It's the responsibility of the contractor, as stated in their contract with flood control, to use practices that keep dirt from the construction site from impacting nearby roadways and prevent impacts to our stormwater quality. Issues may be reported to Flood Control District Service Request Center on our website at www.hcfcd.org.
Thank you, Kyle. This next question is also for you, Kyle. Lisa asks, is there any intent to do preliminary cleanup, such as brush, down trees, etc., of the Willow Creek bed?
So as far as the creek bed goes, there's no intent to do any cleanup of that, but the project site, we will be doing some clearing. So we will be taking down trees and brush during that process before the construction begins.
Thank you, Kyle. This next question is also for you. Has property acquisition been completed for this project?
No. At this time, Flood Control District is still acquiring the property, which is one of the reasons why we couldn't show the alternatives tonight. The flood control district does not show alternatives for property that we do not yet own. We do plan at a later time to have a community involvement meeting, which actually details each one of those parcels that we will be acquiring.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. Our next question is for Brandy. Brandy, some of the proposed basins that we've had meetings on are wet bottom basins. How can a basin full of water hold more water?
Good question. The answer is the basin is not full. It may look full because you see standing water in it all the time. However, the basin is always designed to be able to handle not only the permanent pool of water that's in there, but also the storm water that comes after a heavy rain event. So the basin is excavated down to like the natural water table, and it provides like a permanent pool. And the space for storing the storm water is above the natural water table up to the top of the basin banks. But before we go on, I know we did have a question earlier, I think from Jim, regarding about being able to make design changes after we receive community input. I kind of want to reiterate that, yes, when we receive community input, once we kind of show the design plans, that opportunity allows for the project team to go back and review all of the input that we receive from the community and see if necessary changes or more evaluations or considerations should be taken before we actually go out to bid for that project. So yes, when we meet again for the design phase of this project, the public input will be looked at and evaluated by the project team to consider if there's any consideration or opportunities for improvement based off of that feedback.
All right, thanks, Brandy. Our next question is for Kyle. Kyle, will there be recreational amenities planned around this project?
The flood control district does not spend its own flood risk reduction money on trails and recreational amenities, but we frequently share our property and our work with partners or organizations who want to finance and maintain those recreational amenities that the community wants. Our core mission is to build flood risk reduction projects that work. So we have to balance that with any potential recreation. Anytime we take away from the footprint of a basin to work in a ball field, a dog park, or a trail, for example, it reduces the amount of stormwater storage the basin site can provide. We will try to find a balance between the two and meet our community goals.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Our next question is also for you, Kyle. What is the recommended alternative?
What is the recommended alternative? The recommended alternative is alternative 2. It had a capacity of 1,748 acre feet of storage for detention. The project also provides relief to 109 structures, 162 acres of land, and 1.6 miles of roadway against stormwater inundation from the 100-year event.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Our next question is for Brandy. Brandy, is the flood control district working with any partners on this project?
The flood control district is not partnering with anybody, that's including Harris County Engineering or Harris County Precinct 3 on this particular project. However, we are coordinating with those both of those entities as they are preparing or developing to expand the Horder Reef Road and Boudreaux Road projects. So look for more. If you'd like more information about those road projects, you can visit the Harris County Engineering website at www.eng.hctx.net for more information.
All right, thank you, Brandy. Our next question is also for you, Brandy. Mike asks, are there plans to widen Willow Creek given the increase of new construction?
That is not a part of this project scope. The flood control district is a no adverse impact entity, which means that whatever we construct, we cannot cause an adverse impact downstream. So this project will store the water to where when it's released back into the existing channel, it would not increase flows within that channel.
All right, thank you, Brandy. Our next question is for Kyle. Kyle, what is the cost of the recommended alternative?
The cost for alternative 2 is going to be $78.9 million.
All right, thank you, Kyle. This next question is also for you. What are the benefits and cost of alternative 1?
Okay, so alternative 1 provides a total of 1,298 acre-feet of detention storage. This alternative removes from the 100-year floodplain 94 structures, 144 acres of land, 1.1 miles of roadway, and the cost for this alternative is $55.9 million.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Our next question is for Brandy. Brandy, if we are not able to see the recommended alternative design today, will we be able to see the recommended alternative designs before construction takes place?
Absolutely. Before we begin any construction and during the future community engagement meeting, we will show the project's design and layout. So at that point in time, we would have identified and know and acquired the property that's needed for this project, as well as what that configuration of what the project will look like for this phase. So the reason why we're not able to show it today is because we have not begun the formal right-of-way acquisition process. So we don't want to share information that is not has been introduced or being able to share with those entities that's going to be impacted. But absolutely, before we go into construction, even before we go into construction, you would definitely be able to see what the basin layout and where it will be located by the time we have our next community engagement meeting.
All right, thanks, Brandy. Our next question is for Kyle. Kyle, what are the benefits and cost of alternative 3?
So for alternative 3, we're looking at obtaining 1,701 acre-feet of detention storage. This alternative removes the 100-year area of inundation from 113 structures, 167 acres, and 1.5 miles of roadway. The cost for this alternative is $76.6 million.
All right, thank you, Kyle. This next question is also for you. During your modeling, were there any areas that see recurrent flooding?
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time? I didn't.
Of course. During your modeling, the modeling of this project, were there any areas that saw recurrent flooding?
Yeah, when we did the modeling, we saw recurrent flooding primarily in the lower reaches of Willow Creek near Sugarberry Place and Inverness Estates subdivisions.
All right, thank you, Kyle. This next question is for Brandy. Brandy, are there any historic flood events that have impacted this project area?
Yes, the Willow Creek watershed has experienced several historic flooding events. More recently that we had was Hurricane Harvey, which was in 2017, the Tax Day flood in 2016, Hurricane Ike in 2008, Tropical Storm Allison in 2001, and then the flood that took place in October 1994 flood. So that's what the historic events that we've had. But before we move on to the next question, I know we received a lot of questions about, we'll receive a few questions about work that's happening within the channel. Even though this particular project doesn't include any channel improvements or there's no plans to do any channel improvements. However, there is a separate clearing project by the Flood Control District that's looking to preserve and the conveyance and the capacity of the channel. I don't have any more details about that project as far as the time and where that project status is right now. But when we do a full response after this meeting, we will try to have that information available to be able to respond to those previous questions that we have received.
All right, thank you, Brandy. And to everyone who is still with us for this meeting, I just wanted to remind everyone that if you have a question or comment about this project during the remainder of our session, you can submit a comment on the site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/Boudreaux. You can also submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801. And you can utilize meeting code 2763. And also, if you're joining us via phone, please press star and you can leave a message that way. Also, just to reiterate, as I said earlier, any questions that we don't get to tonight during tonight's Q&A, they will receive a response from the Flood Control District following the close of our comment period associated with this project. And this meeting, information from this meeting and the recording of this live stream will be on the Flood Control District's website and YouTube channel. All right, moving on. Let's see. Yes, our next question is for Kyle. Kyle, what are the next steps for this project?
All right, so the next steps, once we receive our community input from tonight's meeting, the preliminary engineering report will be transmitted to the Harris County Commissioners Court. Once transmitted, we can move on to the design stage. This will include the development of detailed design plans and specifications that will be used to construct the recommended project.
All right, thanks, Kyle. This next question is also for you, Kyle. Does the recommended alternative have any impacts on the M1200000 tributary?
No, the recommended alternative does not make any changes to the M120-0000 tributary, which is determined to be jurisdictional in our Waters of the U.S. report.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Next question is for Brandy. Brandy, what other work is taking place in the Willow Creek watershed?
There is a final design for the second phase of the M124-00-00 project that's located east of Highway 249 and south of FM 2920, and it's north of Willow Creek. We're hoping to share more information about that final design with the public either later this year or early next year. In addition, we've also had ongoing ENR project that's going on at Cypress Rose Hill Stormwater Detention Basin, which is located along Cypress Rose Hill, just south of FM 2920. As of mid-August, our crews have removed nearly 100,000 cubic yards of soil from that detention basin. And so I encourage you to find out more things that are happening within the Willow Creek watershed. So please visit our website, and you can click on the Willow Creek watershed area, and it will kind of list all the projects that are actively going on within the watershed, where you can find up-to-date updates of where the status is of that project.
All right, thank you, Brandy. Our next question is for Kyle. Kyle, does the recommended alternative include both wet and dry bottom basins?
Yes, the recommended alternative includes both wet and dry features in several compartments of the basin.
All right, thanks, Kyle. This next question is also for you. Is this project going to be done in phases? And if so, why?
Yes, this project is going to be done in 3 phases. And we're primarily doing those 3 phases because of limited funding and also right-of-way acquisition.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Our next question is for Brandy. Brandy, when will we have information on the project's construction impacts to this area?
You will find out more about the construction impact and the schedule when we host an additional public meeting in the future to present the final design of the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin, which is during the design stage. At this time, the flood control district will have a strong, at that time, I'm sorry, the flood control district will have a strong handle of what the recommended alternatives of final design, including details of the project's construction impacts. We also plan to have an additional community meeting to specifically discuss the CDBG funding later this year that can kind of talk about some of the requirements and stipulations as well as it applies to that grant.
All right, thanks, Brandy. This next question is also for you. This project is close to a nearby airport. Is it appropriate for there to be wet bottom basins?
The wet bottom features may be eliminated during the design phase, subject to the final FAA Wildlife Hazard Assessment Coordination with the David Wayne Hooks Memorial Airport. So during the design phase, we'll have ongoing coordination with the airport and kind of present to them our plan. And based off of their review, they will let us know if our recommended alternative to move forward with wet bottom is approved to move forward, or if we may need to consider it and move to a dry bottom basin.
All right, thank you, Brandy. And it looks like one commenter tonight, Mike, says he fully supports this project and would like to have it move forward as soon as possible. Thank you, Mike. We support this project too. It's definitely much needed. And if you want to follow the status of the project as things move forward, you can go to hcfcd.org/Boudreaux. That way be kept up to date. You can also subscribe to us on Facebook, Twitter, and various other social media channels, and we will release updates as they become available. All right, this next question is for Kyle. Kyle, are there any pipelines that run through the project site that will need to be moved or avoided?
So there are two pipelines in our study area. They're a 9-inch Enterprise gas line and a 4.5-inch ExxonMobil gas line. Those are located within a 40-foot easement located at the southwest corner of the project site, and they're owned by Humble Pipeline Company. Our design will work to avoid any impacts to those lines, even though they are abandoned.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Our next question is for Brandy. Brandy, are you protecting any of the forested area and wetlands around the project site?
Yes, all three alternatives include approximately 70 acres of preservation area that provide also a buffer on both banks of Willow Creek, which is referred to as M100, for preservation of the riparian forest and natural habitat of that channel. All three alternatives were found to require a federal individual permit to mitigate the environmental impacts of wetlands of the U.S. WOTUS for constructing the ultimate phases. The initial phase for alternatives 1 and 2 avoids wetland impacts, since most of the jurisdictional wetlands are concentrated on the east side of the property, and impacts to M120 channel is avoided to reduce those environmental permitting challenges. So we're trying to preserve the wetlands as much as possible, as well as not only for this project provide a preservation area, but for the entire study as a whole, make sure that we have a preservation area that keeps the natural state along the channel as much as possible.
All right, thanks, Brandy. And we are at 7:29 right now. We have time for one last question. Kyle, this next question is for you. What stage of the project life cycle is the Boudreaux project?
Okay, the Boudreaux Stormwater Detention Basin, we're currently in our PER phase. During this stage, we developed the project further from the feasibility stage. and we also obtain any needed environmental permitting. After that, we'll work to acquire any right-of-way and work through utility relocations as needed.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Brandy, for your participation in tonight's Q&A. And with that, I would like to share one final reminder that the comment period associated with this meeting runs through October 11th, but we're always looking for your input and engagement. We also encourage everyone to get flood insurance as flood season in Harris County runs year-round. Thank you again for joining us this evening and for providing your input on this project. We look forward to continuing to share updates as our work moves forward. Please stay safe and have a good evening.